Slurped up my G's, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. And today I'm going to do a little bit of a vital base for you guys. So before we get into this video, let's have a quick word with our sponsors. So I'm just going to give the Shadow Master a quick call here.
Today I've got a neurofunk base that's so nasty it's going to blow your NAN straight off her sofa and into space.
Whoa, that was a bit weird. You what, mate? He's a bit of a strange guy there, isn't he? But we got to love him because he creates the vital bases for us. And you might be thinking, you know, are you making vital bases again? Well, the answer is no. But yeah, I did make one. Like, you can have it for free if you want. Phase plant is a little bit more interesting for me at the moment. But I thought some of you guys, you know, you've not been able to keep your lights on in your house. So you've not been able to buy phase plant, let alone join my Patreon or pay for your next artifact lesson. So I don't know what you're doing really. I mean, you don't need electricity, you just need like a phone, you know, with a bit of signal, and we'll make it work. You know what I mean? But anyway, yes, let's get into today's video, where we shall be making a very simple and easy nana knocking not really neurofunk, sine wave, smooth rolling, sub bassy bass line. Let's get into it. So let's have a quick little listen to the nice little vital bass I've made for you guys today. And if we start off by opening vital, because that would really help, because it's difficult to make basses without opening a synth, I think. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn off all the effects. We're going to reverse engineer this one nicely, and super easy and simple to make. But there's a couple of tips. The movement comes from two main things. So I've got one LFO, which is providing a bit of movement, and then also the unison detuning between the sine waves is creating the other main movement. And what I've been doing recently in phase plant, and then here in this bass as well, is trying to do all the movement by ear and not using the quantized grids in the LFO. And I feel like in my synthesis, I've become better by doing things off the grid, because I can time things by ear to like a small loop, like quite easily, you know. So it doesn't, it maybe takes a few extra seconds to, like, you know, try and get the timing right, but when you do it like kind of naturally like this, you end up getting a bit more of a humanized and like nicer sound. So I try to do things now just using like the seconds rather than like the LFO, you know, the grid, like the what's it called? Like the tempo sync, you know. Shout out to the tempo sync. You can find it next to the tempo dishwasher. So we're going to start off just with a basic shape sine wave down here at -12. And then I'm going to turn up the unison to 3. And that's creating this main kind of movement already. And then the rest of the things I'm sort of mapping around this. But if I go ahead and add in a little bit of pink noise now as well. It's a very small amount. The level is off. But what I've done is I've FM'd from the sample. So there's just a bit of noise going into the sine wave. It's at 1.4%. Really small amount, but does make a nice little difference. And then I'm going to add another sine wave down here at -24. And this one I'm going to FM from oscillator 1. So I'm going to crack this on here. This is where we get that main kind of, yeah, parts of the sound that sounds really cool. And this is at about 27% here. And next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of filter movement with filter 1. Just on this second one here, and I've got the phaser negative on, and it's just going up and down a little bit on an LFO, and the LFO has also got a stereo knob turned up, so it's going to separate the left and right and make it even more interesting rhythmically. Left and right will be slightly different. So that's all set up and nice, and the LFO, like I said before, I've done it sort of by just, you know, randomly by using the seconds here. So if I change that, you know, it really changes the tone, and it could be a great thing to like you put on a macro and modulate perhaps. but I liked it around 5.2. It kind of fit with the rhythm already, so I'm going to leave it at there. And then what I've got is I've also tracking the LFO to the phase position here. So if I unbypass this, it's a small detail, but if I sort of take that off again, if you can hear, it's actually introducing a bit more life into the sound, and it's moving the start position of the sine wave around as the note is playing. So it's a kind of like a bit of a weird like phase modulation trick. Don't worry too much about the science, just notice that it makes the sound move a little bit more and it sounds better, and let's move on. So the next thing is that I'm gonna start to add on some effects, and then a few of these are going to be modulated as well on the LFO here. So I'm just using 4 effects, and it's quite like a sine wave heavy kind of bass. So like if I start to do too much, it's going to start to sort of destroy all that low end. So I'm only using them in small amounts. So I'm just driving up the distortion with soft clipping on the LFO here. So a little bit of extra push, and then the EQ high end, a nice little boost here. Basically bringing up some air in the sound that, you know, there's not much there anyway, but if we bring it up like quite a bit, we get a little bit more air into the whole bass. And then you can see I've got this really small amount of mixed in filter movement here. And then a tiny bit of chorus, like mixed in 7%. Bit of extra width, just a touch. And that's basically all we have done in the Vital bass. And now I'm going to move on to the post-processing. So, you know, rhythmically and texturally and everything, it fits with my, you know, little loop that I've got here. But it's not quite as mixed in as nice as it could be. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add on a channel EQ, and I'm going to take out some of the sides in the low end, just here around like 80 hertz, because I do want to keep some low end stereo width in there. So just taking out a little bit of that, and then next up I'm going to add in a ruiner, which is just a distortion plugin, and basically going to really, you know, up at 50-50, I've really messed up the sound with a lot of kind of distortion settings here. We're just going to blend in a little bit of that signal, like a really small amount. And it'll just dirty up the sound a bit, and that's what your NAN will appreciate, a dirty sound. So that's muy importante. And yeah, buenos noches. Mucho gusto. And I've basically then bounced this out as a little separate audio file, turned it down very, very slightly so it fits in my mix down a little bit better, just -1 dB, and it goes into my bass group, which has a sidechain set up already to the kick and everything like that. So kind of mixed it in a little bit nicer among the rest of the elements, and we'll probably use this to continue writing this song, I suppose. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Much appreciated. Have a great rest of your evening. Peace out. Much love. Don't do anything I wouldn't. Ciao for now. Ciao, Bella. Adios, muchachos.
Too great.